Hello Summoners and welcome back to another Pro Guides mid-patch update video. My name is Christoph and today I'll be going over all the strongest champions using fresh statistics to give you guys the best and most accurate tier list available. We encourage all our viewers to comment on our lists and say if you agree or disagree with us on certain champion placements. Also, as a reminder, the newly reworked Aurelion Sol and Kayle will now be included in our tier lists. Their data has finally come in and our challenger level analysts and partnered pro players are excited to include them. A lot has changed since the beginning of patch 9.17 and there's a ton of things to cover, but before we get started, I want you to click that description link below if you want to see massive improvements to your rank in League of Legends. We have challenger coaches to help you guys out anytime you want, and a bunch of great guides from pro players. All your friends are going to be super surprised how you managed to get so good at League overnight. Trust me guys, you don't want to miss out on this. With that being said, let's jump right into the video. Alright, so let's start off with the top lane. The top lane tier list sees a couple of changes compared to the one we had at the start of the patch. In our S tier, we have Mordekaiser, Jax, Darius, Renekton, Vladimir, Riven, and welcoming a new member, Pantheon. When the reworked Pantheon first hit the Rift, he was an extremely underwhelming champion with low damage and insanely bad scaling. However, within the past few patches, Pantheon has received a ton of buffs and hotfixes, which have pushed him from our B tier into our S tier. The recent addition to Comet Spear's critical strike passive has given him that little bit of extra damage that he lacked, so he feels so much better to play because of it. Our analysts highly recommend top lane mains to start playing Pantheon because he's powerful, straightforward, and is a great champion to play with a very low skill cap. Next up in the S tier, we want to talk about Riven. Riven recently received a cooldown nerf to her main damage and mobility spell, Broken Wings. Due to these nerfs, Riven's win rate dropped by a small amount but has been steadily increasing within the past few days. This is mainly due to Riven mains slowly readjusting to the nerfs and learning to play alongside them. However, a Rioter has confirmed that Riven is receiving buffs next patch, so you should try to learn her right now while her ban rate and pick rate are relatively low. It will be extremely difficult to get her in champion select if the buffs do go through next patch, so add her to your champion pool ASAP. We'll make sure to keep you guys updated on what the planned buffs are in our upcoming changes video this week, so make sure to hit that sub button to be notified of that. Moving into the A tier, let's start off with Aatrox. Although Aatrox is listed as an A tier pick in our tier list, he holds a very high presence in competitive play and is confirmed to receive nerfs in patch 9.18. The planned nerf before this patch was to reduce his base HP by 80 at level 1, but the Riot Balance team have changed their minds and are looking to nerf his ultimate instead. World Ender will have its healing reduced on minions from 100% to 25%. This is a huge nerf to Aatrox, which will definitely impact his stance in the meta. However, do keep in mind that the Rioter who did tell us this information has mentioned that nothing is set in stone and changes can be made before 9.18 hits the live servers. Next up in the A tier, we have Illaoi. Illaoi received a mini rework a few patches ago, and she's been one of the most frustrating and oppressive top laners to play against in 9.17. She does a ton of damage right now, and it feels like there's almost nothing you can do if she pulls your spirit. In addition to that, asking your jungler for ganks will probably end up poorly because she can easily 1v2 double kill you guys without breaking a sweat. If you're looking for a top laner who can completely crush lane and 1v9 team fights, then well, you should probably pick up Illaoi. Much like Illaoi, Malphite has received a mini rework recently and has been thriving in the top lane meta. I don't know about you guys, but I am very happy with this because he's one of my better champs. In fact, his rework is so successful, he's a bit on the strong side in terms of our A tier and is slightly under that power margin for the S tier. His damage, dueling potential, and all-ins make him a huge threat who can easily win lane and carry games. Malphite can pretty much beat most melee top laners in the meta like Irelia, Fiora, Pantheon, Jax, and Camille, which is just the cherry on top of this sundae. On top of that, a lot of pro players are opting to go the full AP route, which is perfect for those games where your team lacks magic damage. Also, he's really amazing in low elo. Just group with your team and press R, and wabam, you just won the game. Alright, lastly for the top lane, Kayle also received a mini rework this patch, and the feedback on her changes have been incredible. This is one of the most successful mini reworks in recent patches, and Kayle mains are absolutely loving it. You become relevant in the game much sooner now, and you actually feel like a real champion. Our analysts have reviewed her fresh statistics and also played over 40 games with her and have placed her in our top lane A tier. The jungle tier list sees a lot of changes in our 9.17 mid-patch update as well. Most notably, in our S+ tier, we welcome a new member, Nunu and Willem. Nunu has always been on the strong side of things, but has managed to dodge nerfs for multiple patches in a row due to his low play rate and ban rate. However, do not be fooled by this. Nunu is one of the strongest junglers in the game, and the best part is, almost anyone can can pilot him. You have an insanely fast and healthy clear speed, and you can pretty much do any route you want. In addition to that, he has a very simple yet extremely effective ganking tool with his W that lets you cover half the lane. In our S tier, we have 7 members who are J4, Vi, Elise, Hecarim, Evelynn, Karthus, and Kayn. These 7 champions shouldn't come as a surprise to you because they've been in and out of our S tier for multiple patches now. Also, notable A tier picks like Master Yi, Rammus, and Lee Sin will likely follow a similar pattern, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Speaking of A tier, we want to cover some new champions that have been added there recently. First up, we have Dr. Mundo. Mundo has received a lot of love from the Balance team and has been buffed and buffed and buffed again within the past few patches. However, in patch 9.17, it appears that the Balance team have finally hit their mark with Dr. Mundo, and he is now a relevant champion in the meta once again. In fact, he appears to be a little bit on the strong side in the jungle and holds an insanely high win rate and pick rate in Korean solo queue. However, his presence in the Western servers like EU and NA is pretty low, and not a lot of players have caught on to his strength. Our analysts highly recommend you add him to your champion pool because you'll catch your opponents off guard with his unknown strength. Next up, another A tier pick that we recently added is again Malphite. If you told me a few patches ago that full AP Malphite with Ultimate Hunter and Presence of Mind would become a meta jungler, then I would probably say that you were just trolling. However, it appears that this unlikely scenario has become a reality, and full AP Malphite jungle is a force to be reckoned with. At first, our analysts were pretty skeptical that this was a legit thing, and that pro players were only playing him for fun in solo queue, but as we progressed further and further into the patch, we started seeing more and more players spam him in the jungle. If you want more details about this build, then make sure to check out our previous video on the 12 OP Korean builds that you must try. We go in depth with full AP Malphite jungle, so don't forget to watch that video after this one. Lastly, in the jungle, we have Pantheon. Pantheon received a small buff to his role as a jungler this patch, with his E no longer doing reduced damage to minions. This slight change has helped him a tiny bit with clearing non-single target camps, and he has been moved up to the A tier. The change feels really good on him, and you should give Pantheon jungle another shot if you didn't find success with him in the past. Kassadin has always been on the brink of making that push to S tier, but has finally rift walked his way up in 9.17. Although his early game is still abysmal, Kassadin has become a lot stronger recently, and the buffs made to his W a few patches ago are doing work. He does really well against a lot of meta champions like Sylas, Akali, and Katarina, which is only helping him solidify his stance as an S tier champion. Once you can survive the early game and start split pushing on an island for free CS, then you'll start scaling up safely to become a 1v9 machine. Next up in the mid lane, Aurelion Sol received a rework this patch, and the changes are not so good. A lot of ASOL mains are actually quitting League of Legends because of how bad this champion has become. Pretty much every notable ASOL main has mentioned that they are not a fan of the W changes, and the community agrees that he is worse now than he ever was before. However, there is some hope because ASOL is confirmed to get buffed in patch 9.18. We'll make sure to keep you guys updated for that with the planned buffs in our upcoming changes video this week, so make sure to click that sub button if you want to get notified. Akali mains have been through a lot within the past few months, from a complete rework to a mini rework to nerfs and more nerfs and even more nerfs. The Riot Balance team fail time and time again to balance this champion. However, when things appear to be brightening up, the Riot Balance team are pulling the rug from underneath and are nerfing Akali in patch 9.18. The original nerf plan for Akali was to reduce the AP scaling of her Q from 60% to 40%, but the Balance team have changed their minds and are gutting her ultimate instead. A writer has told us that Akali's ultimate will have its damage reduced by 10, and the cooldown will be increased from 120 seconds to 160 seconds. However, like always, these nerfs are not set in stone, and changes can be made before 9.18 hits the live servers. This is not the right way to nerf Akali, and I really hope that the Balance team changes their mind. Next up, we'll briefly mention Kayle again for our mid lane section. Although Kayle is an A tier top laner, she is placed in our C tier for mid lane because there are way too many bad matchups for her in this lane. In the top lane, Kayle can safely farm with her ranged autos and Q, while her melee counterpart can't really do much to pressure her. However, in the mid lane, with the huge amounts of burst assassins and Poe, Kayle really struggles to keep up and is not a recommended mid laner. Galio received a ton of buffs within the past few patches, but he will be unranked still in our mid lane tier list. There just aren't enough stats to place him anywhere because nobody is playing him. Riot has pretty much ruined the one key mechanic which was keeping him relevant, and you'll likely just not see him until he gets buffed. Rip Galio once again. Ryze received an MR buff in patch 9.17, and he's moved up into the B tier in our mid-patch update. With a champion like Ryze, who has pretty low range for a mage, he gets easily poked out by champs like Syndra, Ahri, and Neeko. However, with the added MR, his laning has gotten noticeably better, better, but he will likely continue to struggle in solo queue. Alright, so moving on to the ADCs. The ADC tier list sees a couple of changes in our mid-patch update. For starters, in our S+ tier, we welcome a new member, Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa has always been on the brink of making that push to the S+ tier, and her recent performance in patch 9.17 has rightfully earned her a spot at the top. However, this will likely change next patch due to a Rioter telling us that Kai'Sa is confirmed to be nerfed in patch 9.18. Like always, we'll keep you guys updated with the planned nerfs for her in our upcoming changes video this week, so make sure to hit that sub button to be notified of that. In our S tier, we have Xayah, Lucian, Vayne, Ezreal, and Caitlyn. Ezreal received some massive nerfs to his E and Q a few patches ago, but his win rate has been steadily increasing over time. This is mainly due to players realizing that they should stop going the hybrid route and just stick to the full AD because his AP scaling is just awful. Ezreal has been moved up into our S tier for this patch and is a great blind pick into any matchup. His safe farming and poke make him a perfect pick for solo queue, so make sure to add him to your champion pool. Lucian received a 3 AD buff at the start of this patch, and he's been moved up to our S tier in the bot lane. He works best with aggressive supports like Leona, Nautilus, and Pyke due to his immense amount of burst and early pressure. If you're a fan of dominating the laning phase and solo killing your opponents, then Lucian is the pick for you. As for the other ADCs in our S tier, a Rioter has told us that Xayah is confirmed for some nerfs, and Caitlyn is confirmed for some buffs next patch. So play Xayah while you can, and also try to learn Caitlyn so you can abuse her once she becomes super strong. Jhin is a pretty powerful AD carry in the meta right now, and in my opinion, he's actually one of the most underrated. With Lucian becoming such a powerhouse pick and seeing a lot more play, Jhin has actually been thriving in the meta. He's the best pick against Lucian because as soon as Lucian dashes in, Jhin can pretty much melt him and hold him in place. So the next time you see a Lucian, make sure to lock in Jhin for a free laning phase. Lastly, for ADCs, a lot of you were wondering why we placed Varus in our B tier at the start of the patch. Although it is true that Poke Varus is an A or even S tier pick, we've decided to leave him in the B tier just due to the vast majority of players going on hit Varus in the bottom lane. There just isn't enough stats on Poke Varus to justify placing him in our tier list yet, so we just left him in our B tier for now, but we'll keep you guys updated next week. Alright, finally, let's go on to our supports. The support tier list remains pretty similar to what we had at the start of the patch. In our S+ tier, we have the same 3 OP champions from before, which are Pyke, Nautilus, and you guys remember, Thresh. And in our S tier, we have Leona, Morgana, Janna, Bard, Blitzcrank, and Nami. Leona received a buff at the start of patch 9.17, which lowered the cooldown of her Q, Shield of Daybreak. Although a 1-second buff seemed almost like nothing, it actually had a huge impact on her strength in the meta. Use her Q, then ult, then E, then you'll have your Q back up for a full 4-second CC once you're at 40 to 45% CD. In addition to that, she does very well into the majority of meta supports like Yuumi, Thresh, Karma, Lulu, and Nami. Just make sure to ban Morgana whenever you play her because that matchup is going to be borderline impossible. Zyra had her ultimate buffed at the start of the patch and her stance in the meta has improved a ton. She's actually extremely close to making that push to S tier, and you'll likely see her there within the next few weeks. She's one of the best carry supports in the game who can single-handedly win you a fight with her immense burst and CC. Make sure you guys try her out. And lastly, for supports, we have Brand. With so many squishy supports in the meta like Zyra, Soraka, Nami, and Janna, it's pretty normal that Brand supports would have a sudden rise in win rate. He's one of the best counters to Zyra because he can poke her from a safe distance and use his ultimate to bounce off your plants. On top of that, if Zyra doesn't walk up to pressure you, then you can easily poke out the enemy ADC, which will auto-win you the lane. Give Brand a shot, you won't regret it. Alright, that's it for our mid-patch analysis video for patch 9.17. If you guys enjoyed watching this, then please hit that like, comment, and subscribe button to be notified for our next video. As a reminder, we'll keep you guys updated next week for what's going to be coming up in the next patch, as well as our tier list the following week, so make sure to check in and click that sub button. Also, if you guys want to see massive improvements to your rank this season, then click the description link below. Get yourself a coach, get yourself good at League. You guys will feel great for it. That's it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck in your next few games, and we'll see you on the Rift.